Any words that don't match English, can't be translated literally into English. So rasa is one of those words. Loosely translated, rasa means a taste, a powerful taste that motivates your activities. So I'd like that we look at our pursuits in life and try to see we're pursuing some kind of flavor or taste. Now there are different types of flavors and tastes. Let's look at what motivates someone on the material plane. The ordinary activities that we see all around us and that we ourselves are absorbed in. The yoga science of psychology teaches us that every activity, every pursuit has a particular flavor that's motivating us. Going to work, relationships, altruism, philanthropy. We're always seeking a particular type of flavor. Because we're sentient beings, we are conscious entities. So what the yoga science of rasa presents to us is, look at the quality of the flavor that you're getting and see, is it sufficient? Whether you're a business person, a family person, someone very dedicated to one's nation, someone very dedicated to the environment, other humanistic concerns, there is a flavor that we have in mind, consciously or unconsciously. Now, the yoga texts analyze the material flavors and find them to be deficient in their ability to satisfy the core self. I don't think that's news to most of you. What do we do then upon our realizing that material flavors are insufficient? By material flavors, I'm speaking about flavors that are within the domain of time. That means within the realm of beginning and end. Flavors composed of matter, whether gross matter or subtle, psychic, or astral matter. If we look at those flavors, we'll find that there is insubstantiality. We just don't seem to be wholly satisfied by those flavors for long. So therefore, what happens? We encounter a phenomenon of pursuit and then dropping the pursuit. In other words, we absorb ourselves in pursuing a particular flavor, and then we decide, I've had enough of that, I'll drop it for a while. Then after dropping it for a while, we think, maybe I better get right back into it. And so we go through this cycle over and over again of embracing something and then putting it aside. Now, why is that psychological tendency so? The yoga texts explain that this psychological tendency has to be there because whether we're embracing some material flavor or vacationing from it, in both cases, we can't be satisfied we're not acting according to our constitutional nature as units of spiritual consciousness. In both cases, whether we're working hard to get something, and by working I just don't mean a salary job, I mean endeavoring in this world to get something. Or, you say, I've had enough, I'll relinquish my grip on whatever it is I'm seeking to get, whether it's consumer goods or relationships or whatever I'm trying to achieve in this world. I'll go on a holiday or I'll give it a miss for a while. That situation can only last for so long before we're right back at it again. And if we look at our activities on the material plane, we'll see this principle in action all the time. The yoga text asks us to see that because of the insubstantiality of the taste, we fluctuate back and forth. I want it, I'll take a break from it. I want it again. Again, I'll take a break from it. How to get a substantial taste that will satisfy us in such a way that we won't have to constantly fluctuate between acceptance and rejection. Acceptance and rejection. This is a concern once we advance on the yoga ladder. In Bhagavad Gita, the essential yoga text, Krishna makes a very interesting comment that the intelligent yogi never pursues pleasure that has a beginning or an end. And generally, pleasure that has a beginning or end has to deal with the body, or in more subtle lifestyle, it has to deal with the mind. So the intelligent yogi understands that he or she will never get a substantial rasa or flavor by pursuing matter, either on the gross plane or the subtle plane. So, what is making us pursue these flavors? We've discussed these substantiality and insubstantiality of flavor. Why? What's making us tick? The yoga science of rasa explains to us that we have in the core of our being the desire for love. To exchange love. Now this is apparently not anything new. However, to understand how deep that loving urge goes is quite revolutionary. If we can actually see that our pursuit of flavors is based upon wanting to exchange love, we can save ourselves a lot of trouble. Ultimately, we want to get to the point of understanding that genuine love cannot be fully exchanged on the material platform, because the material platform has some inbuilt limitations. First of all, time. Time corrodes and spoils everything. And secondly, bodies of matter, minds of matter, interfere with the unlimited expansion of the living entity's loving urges. Matter is an impediment. the yogi understands. Because at the core of our being, there is a, shall we say, loving vibration, for one of the better words, that wants to just expand without any barriers. Think about it. We would love to love without any impediment, without any disturbance. When people fall in love as conventionally known, this is the feeling they get. The sky is the limit. This will just go on and on. Things will just increase and increase. Of course, there is the time factor, which causes every taste you're getting on the material plane to eventually deteriorate and lose its freshness. Scientists calculate everything these days. They have statistics for everything. It's one of the benefits of the computer age. So, there actually is a world average calculated for the duration of romantic feelings. It turns out to be, according to social scientists who have tried to ascertain this, the world average turns out to be 17 months. That means some are more, some are less, but the average is 17 months. After which, due to the presence of time, the thrill starts to fade. In my travels around the world, I became aware of a tribe in West Africa. One might consider it to be a primitive tribe, but they have a very interesting practice, which I investigated from the viewpoint of yoga science. Whenever some young people in the village fall in love, the whole tribe gathers together in the village square, so to speak, and they sit the young couple in the front. Hundreds upon hundreds of persons gather. And so, after sitting the young couple, the star-crossed lovers, in the front, what happens next? The whole tribe just laughs for 2 hours straight. They just laugh, and they laugh, and they laugh, and they laugh. And then they disperse. So, what is the purpose of that supposed primitive behavior? It's the tribe's way of letting these young lovers know that, look, it's very nice that you're feeling these things, but for a durable relationship, there has to be a bit more going on. And for our village to survive, we need relationships that are a bit more stable than a romantic flash. So, this is one way of dealing with the desire at the core of our being to emanate love that has no barriers. How do we express that with material bodies and material minds? This is the great mystery of love in this world. Sometimes persons become so frustrated with expressing or trying to express love that they decide the best thing is to be impersonal, to negate desire, to negate individuality in any way conceived, to negate our constant quest for the bhakti science of pure love and devotion doesn't simply concern itself with love as known physically or mentally. The bhakti science focuses upon love beyond matter, whether gross matter or subtle matter. That means beyond bodily expressions of love, beyond mental expressions of love. So why would the bhakti science take that approach? We all know that material things have a beginning and an end. All things must pass. As scientists who calculated the worldwide average duration of romantic feelings, they want their understanding. So, what to do next? What do we do next upon realizing the insubstantiality and temporariness of love as experienced on the material platform? Sometimes persons, they get frustrated. Never again. Or it's not very important at all. In my youth, my parents sent me to posh boarding school in New Hampshire as a scholarship student with children from the wealthiest families in USA, DuPonts, Rockefellers, Kennedys, like that. And there I became aware, through my fellow students, of a principle, quite common at the time, a very pragmatic approach to relationships and love. My roommate told me his mother, she was part of the DuPont clan, she instructed him, marry the money, love comes later. I have to admit, my own mother, when I was 5 years old, she didn't exactly teach me that. Something near that, not as utilitarian as that. She taught me a very interesting mantra. Romance without finance is a nuisance. She never thought that she's talking to a son who wouldn't really have a chance to apply that in life. Because after I graduated from university, my life took a different turn. In any case, I'm explaining these things so we can see that on the material platform, the expression of the loving urge has some problems. It runs into barriers. It runs into stone walls. And there's always time corroding it. So again, what are we going to do about that? We live in denial, never again. Become cold and impersonal. Analyze every relationship in terms of, well, what have you done for me lately? Reminds me of a popular song when I was a little kid. When you give more than you get, you're in danger. You may find that you're in love with a stranger. When there's nothing more to be gained, don't keep holding on in vain. Start packing up your heart. When you find out that you're losing, it's time to get on moving. So this is the very... Thank you for reminding me. Anything else? I was wondering how much I should discuss the mystic yoga part. Brian's told me that we got some mystical persons coming. So I thought I'd just throw it out there. Mysticism as a practical reality, destination consciousness. And how the yoga system is not geocentric. I think the last time I looked, it's calculated that there are 18 million people practicing some kind of yoga in the USA. Very few of them understand that they're dealing with something that's off-planet, in its stated origins, and off-planet in its thrust, its goal. Because at the core of the yoga system is understanding. We are not the body, we are a unit of spiritual consciousness. So then the question is, why are we trapped in a body of matter on the material plane? Let's go to a higher level, a higher standard of living. Just like you see on this earth planet. People want to upgrade their residential area, to upgrade the quality of their life, even as materially known. That is natural, but that natural urge is being wrongly expressed within the realm of time and matter. Why not upgrade all the way? So that the loving propensity can be expressed without impediment. But I'd like to mention something even more mystical. That at the topmost level of yoga, you realize that you don't have to leave the material plane in order to function on the highest level. You are able to connect even the material energy to the source of all energies, and in that way interact with even matter so that the highest good is produced. But sometimes people say, what you're talking about seems to be escapism. Why otherworldliness? But we're not talking about any kind of geographic restriction. We're speaking about things that transcend material location. So on the topmost level of yoga, one can indeed, as stated in the New Testament, because many people in India view Jesus Christ as a topmost yogi. There it is said, you should be in the world but not of the world. That is high technology. That is topmost mysticism. It's like saying you should live underwater but don't get wet. In other words, the power of pure love is so great that you can actually even exist in the realm of matter and touch people's core beings in such a profound way that you inspire them to go to higher levels. And all that inspiration is going on even on the material plane. I just thought I'd throw that in.
Maharaj, I have a question. It may sound like a simple question to you, but in terms of practicing the Bhakti Yoga, and I think some people know, but it's always nice to hear it from the Swami, the purpose of the Mahamantra. And when Lord Chaitanya introduced this in the 1400s, can you talk about that a little bit and how that kind of helps to propel the purpose of the consciousness and the realization that you talked about?
How many persons are familiar with the Mahamantra? Please.
the Hare Krishna mantra.
All right. We have to understand the power of sound. Our material situation is caused by sound vibration. A certain quality of sound vibration goes into your ear. That if you want to be happy, this is what you do. And we become molded like that since our childhood. Indeed, since countless births. But if you just want to look at this one lifetime, you can see how sound vibration molds you. You become like whomever you're hearing from. So when you associate with others, you're actually exchanging sound vibration. This is what you do to have a good time. This is what you do to enjoy. This is what you do in order to avoid pain. And so that molds your consciousness. So just as one kind of sound will condition you to material existence, another quality of sound can liberate you, free you from material existence. This is how powerful sound is. So the Maha Mantra, the Hare Krishna mantra, connects you to the ultimate spirituality in a way that you can experience. It is entrance into the laboratory of spiritual experience. And because of that direct spiritual experience, you feel nourished in your spiritual pursuit. There's nothing theoretical about it. There's nothing kind of beliefy about it. It's like whether you believe or not, if you touch fire, the fire will burn you. So similarly, if we put ourselves in connection with topmost quality sound, our life changes. Just like if you put yourself in connection with low quality sound, your life changes. Good parents are always concerned, who's my kid hearing from? I remember my mother, she had her views on raising children. No, don't go near basketball courts. I don't want my kids following that stereotype. She had her career plan for her kids. All my children, they go to Ivy League schools. That's the way this family is set up. She's very careful. You hear from persons who have that kind of goal in mind. So, similarly, if we hear spiritual sound vibration, particularly designed to take us to the topmost destination, that sound vibration will spiritualize us. The Sanskrit word mantra is very precise in its meaning. It means that sound that is capable of delivering the mind from material illusion. And so the Maha Mantra means the greatest sound for delivering the mind from material illusion. By properly cultivating the Maha Mantra. These things are not just opinions. These are described in the yoga texts, in the spiritual heritage associated with ancient India. But just like the sun rises in the east, but it's not the property of the east, similarly, although this deepest mysticism is associated with India, it's not the property of India. The sun is meant for the whole world. This knowledge is meant for the whole world. So the Hare Krishna mantra, as its first effect, will give experience that I'm non-material, I'm not the body. And then it will diminish material desires, which are considered to be like a forest fire. The Hare Krishna mantra will turn the heat down, lower the flame. Those are the first perceptions that one gets. Who takes up the lifestyle of a mantra practitioner. And then, gradually, through serious practice, one begins to understand the spiritual identity in relation to the supreme spiritual identity. And all this experience is far beyond the plane of mere belief or theology. So that's why the yoga texts recommend the Hare Krishna mantra, especially in this day and age when minds are so agitated. People are besieged from all around by disturbance, dissatisfactions, agitations, lack of stability, both socially and individually. In those circumstances, people don't have the time or the peace of mind to even dare attempt elevation through the Ashtanga yoga system. That system is meant for yogis in the Himalayas, alone in solitude. You can get the same result and more by carefully pursuing the proper mantra. So therefore the yoga texts recommend the Hare Krishna mantra, as particularly in this day and age when minds are agitated, people are very disturbed. How's that? Okay. Disturbance is increasing more and more. I'm based in New Zealand. It's the last continent, Australia and New Zealand, for me. And the past 15 years I've been based there. 3 or 4 months of the year. The rest of the time I'm traveling. And even in such a beautiful, tranquil place, you'd be shocked to know how disturbed minds are. Suicide is the leading cause of death for persons between the ages of 12 and 25. I've heard young people tell me, yes, we live in such a stunningly beautiful place, a natural paradise, but it's just too quiet here. All we can do is hear ourselves think. I remember when I was, I'm a dual citizen, so I was getting a New Zealand passport. And so I went to the photo shop, and there's some young ladies working there in their early 20s. And so I said, I need some passport pictures. So they just heard the accent and said, oh, yeah, we do American passports here. They take a special size of a photo. I said, no, not for American passport. It's for a New Zealand passport. The girls looked at me, where are you from? I said, I was born in New York. New York! We do anything to live in New York. We hate this place here. It's just so beautifully quiet. We can't stand it. I was shocked. Why do you want to come here? We do anything to live in New York City. So, it is a prominent feature of this day and age that minds are agitated. I'm sure you all know persons who they cannot stay in a house alone without having the TV on and a radio on and some music playing all at once. Because the minds are so disturbed and they don't want to, unfortunately, they don't want to be left for a few seconds in terms of having to deal with the self. So similarly, I've met so many young people in New Zealand who say that. It's so beautiful here. We know. And yes, we get wasted in some beautiful places. But we can't take it. All you can do is hear yourself think. It's just too much. It's too peaceful. It's too quiet. What would be the most effective technology for spiritual upliftment in circumstances of such mental agitation? So that's what the yoga texts are concerned with. They have prescriptions for different phases of human civilization. So now we're in the agitation phase, the mental disturbance phase. People are disturbed economically, politically, psychologically. So for that reason, the yoga texts recommend the Hare Krishna. Maybe we can just have some group dynamic meditation, kirtan, and then I think Brian is going to demonstrate an individual meditation practice.
I didn't know that.
I'll just chant a little, and please respond. The more that we can call out from the heart, the more effective the experience will be. Do we have it? We're done with It's responsive, so I will sing the mantra, and then please participate just for a few minutes. It will do us no harm, and it will, I feel, cement our discussion we've had tonight. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Approach. Rather than experience that sour grapes line of thinking, why not push to a higher level? Recognize what the problem is. The rasa, the flavors that we are pursuing on the material plane through material pursuits won't satisfy us. They do indicate the presence of something more substantial. Just like counterfeit money indicates there's real money somewhere. So the science of Bhakti Yoga deals with both illuminating the insufficiencies of love on the material plane, but at the same time pointing to the expressions of love on the spiritual platform that are unimpeded. Just as there are flavors, rasas, that motivate us on the material plane, similarly, there are flavors on the spiritual plane. And this is where the yogi's attention is directed to. Don't repudiate your individuality. Don't ever pretend that you can annihilate all desire. Instead, learn how to desire in perfection. So in Bhagavad Gita, you'll find knowledge of desire management. Since we cannot rid ourselves of desire, no matter how, I don't know if any of you here have tried that. No desire. Anyone tried that? You might last a weekend, but because you are a conscious entity, that means you are desirous, because desire is the manifestation of consciousness. So the whole point of the yoga system is to distill desire, refine desire, so that desire takes us to the highest destinations possible. Well, that's something I'll talk about later, destination consciousness. Right now, I'd like that we still focus upon flavor that motivates our activities. An intelligent person starts to think, what is the flavor that will not fade? How can I taste a flavor in relationships that is outside the clutches of time, and in fact, a flavor that increases in freshness? That can't happen on the material plane. So the science of Bhakti Yoga teaches us we are all in a quest for a love supreme. We may live in denial of it due to sour grapes attitudes, due to hurts and pains over countless lifetimes. But still, the fact is, we are looking for a love without limitations. So the Bhakti science hits that nail directly on the head. How everyone's loving capacity can be completely satisfied. Only then can there be inner peace. And only when there is inner peace can there be outer peace. So this is very practical. Unless human beings have a functioning method for loving, they'll never have any peace within themselves. And if there's no peace within, there's going to be no peace without. Based on no inner peace, because of not being able to handle our loving capacities, we cause disturbances, not only to ourselves, but to others. So why not just directly face the reality? I want to love, but I haven't found a situation in which my loving capacities can be fully satisfied. Therefore, I'm going to cause havoc. Someone's going to pay. Now, consciously, we may not think like that. After all, everyone's a nice person. But we have to be objective and look at what's going on in society, what's going on in the world, and also what's going on in our own heart. Bitterness, feelings of rejection, feelings of insufficiency, incapacity, on and on it goes. This science of rasa can really put us in a different direction. First of all, one admits, I'm a sentient being, I am a unit of spiritual consciousness. I must have a connection to the Supreme Consciousness. And in that connection, there's a flow, a dynamic exchange of spiritual energy. We can call that spiritual love. Now, why a connection to the ultimate spirituality. I haven't met many persons. I do meet them from time to time, but I haven't met many persons in my travels throughout the world who will insist they are the everything. Generally, most people will admit we are parts of something that we don't clearly understand. Perhaps we are parts of the universe. We belong to the universe. We're just starting to understand that we belong to the earth and we shouldn't destroy the earth. We're starting to figure that out. But perhaps we're part of something even bigger. We're part of the whole universe. And then maybe this universe is just a speck of dust amongst countless universes. And then maybe there's something beyond even material universes, something beyond the material cosmos that I'm part of. What would make us think in that way? Consciousness. Consciousness is a riddle for science as known today. There's not one scientific instrument in the world that is capable of directly detecting consciousness. There's no agreement on what exactly consciousness is. If we turn to Bhagavad Gita, that essential yoga text, we'll find Krishna explaining that consciousness indicates the presence of a non-material reality, your core spiritual identity, non-material. The fact that consciousness cannot be described materially gives us some insight into what's actually going on at the core of our being. Now, that consciousness is not the everything. I'm not conscious of what goes on in your body. You're not conscious of what goes on in my body. So we can understand our consciousness is minute. Is that consciousness part of a supreme consciousness? This is what yoga is concerned with at its topmost levels. Our existence as particles of spiritual consciousness and our relation with the supreme consciousness. Once we start dealing with that as we near the pinnacle of the yoga system, then we're encountering some extraordinary dynamics, some extraordinary personal exchanges. Let us consider happiness in this world. I'm thinking of a verse from the graduate study to Bhagavad Gita, a multi-volume text called Srimad Bhagavatam. There it is stated that only two types of persons can be happy in this world, and everyone in between has to suffer a bit. So what are those two types? On the one hand, you have the dedicated materialist. We are matter. There's nothing more to us than that. And we should just dedicate ourselves to hedonistic goals. Leave it at that. I'm thinking of a statement by someone, arguably the most famous scientist in the world, popularly known, Stephen Hawking. He said, just face it, we're all just nothing more than chemical scum on a moderate-sized planet. I mention this statement all over the world, and in every case, in every audience, 99% of the persons don't feel comfortable with that statement. We're just chemical scum on a moderate-sized planet, and that's it. So, we have this intuition that there's something non-material about us. But how do we experience that non-material identity? That's the beginning. And then, furthermore, what are we a part of? If we're not matter in terms of our core being, what's the greater non-material reality that we're part of? And how do you relate to that non-material reality? Once again, we're dealing with the expression of love issue. Unless we figure out how to emanate our loving capacity in a way that there's no limitation, we're always going to feel some problems, insufficiencies, deficiencies, and we'll feel thwarted. That's probably the best word. When you want to love and you're thwarted, it's a very agonizing feeling. No one likes to admit this, I know. But it's recognized in yoga psychology. A thwarted urge to love leads to anger. It leads to all sorts of internal distortions. So how can we, once again, how can we express our loving urge in perfection? That would be a wonderful thing. What is the science of the love spring? These are questions that occupy the greatest meditators. Once we can understand how to love in the most universal way, then we can actually do good for all living entities. Is there one switch that we can turn that will make our application of love most effective? Again, in my travels, I often meet people who tell me, I just love everyone. I just love everyone. I just want to love everyone. Recently in Sydney, Australia, there was a bit of a controversy with the municipal government because in the prime tourist area of the city was a man who would stand on a busy intersection on the sidewalk and had a big sign, "Free hugs, come and get it. I'm the love man." and people would come up to him to get a hug. And he was, the newspapers counted, in his half-a-day stint there, he was like hugging 200 persons. So the local government became upset that this is disturbing our tourist industry. There's a weird guy standing on the sidewalk in the tourist section offering free hugs and calling himself the love man. So they ordered him off the street. A huge protest broke out amongst the people in the city. Wait a minute. This is just what we need. What's wrong with a man offering hugs and recognizing that everyone wants to be loved? Why do I bring this up? I bring this up because if you want to love everyone, practically, how can that be done? The love man hugged about 200 persons in a half a day. But that's just 200 getting a momentary hug, and those 200 persons are just such a tiny number compared to all the human beings who live on the planet. it is a legitimate sentiment that human beings have. I want to love everyone. Love is what we're all about. But how do you practically do that? Can you imagine a big tree? And on that tree, there are blossoms. Do you water every leaf or every blossom individually? No. You water the root of the tree, and all the branches blossom. So what is the root of existence, where we can apply our love so that every creature benefits? That is actually the thrust of the yoga system. If through your yoga practice you can connect to the ultimate loving reality and apply your loving capacities in that way, then you can connect to everyone. Depending on your strength, your spiritual strength. I find that this science of bhakti yoga, science of pure love and devotion, to be most essential for humanity today. But I want to now shift to another angle. Destination consciousness. I know that when you all fly, when I fly, I am thinking, when will we get to the destination? I'll tolerate the inconveniences on the flight, the bad air. I won't get upset what kind of persons are sitting around me, because I know the whole point of being on the airplane is to go somewhere, to land, to get to the destination. So what I found in my travels throughout the world is that destination consciousness is not very prevalent. Let's take the yoga system, for example. The Hatha yoga system of yoga asanas is very popular. Less popular is a system of pranayama, breathing in such a way that the mind becomes quieted. Now, the asanas, the yoga postures, and the breathing exercises are actually part of a complete system. This is not so known in the Western world. They're part of a complete system that is meant to take you somewhere. I've been thinking about writing another book